Hey, hello everyone. Glad to see you all here. If you are new to this channel, to these live streams, this live stream is for IT project managers, for all kinds of project managers in general. It's led by a project manager. My name is Dmitro Nizhbetsky. I'm the author of the Practical Project Management book. I'm the host at the ITPM IT Project Managers channel, and I'm a creator of IT Project Management Mastery program and Career Accelerator program. So, if you haven't been on this live stream yet, please consider that this is a live Q&A session. So you can ask your questions, just type them in the comments, and I'll make pauses and I will answer them as I go. And at the end, I will also spend some time answering your specific questions. So far, if you are like joining it from your work, let me know. Say hello, where you're joining from, and what's your current role. Because today we're going to talk about what's called life cycle project management tools. And the most prominent one that you must have heard about is Microsoft Project. But there are more similar tools like that. Today, I'm going to present you the Merlin project. It's a dedicated tool for Mac OS, so it's not available on Windows, on web, but that's not the point. They're not sponsoring this video. They're not paying for me to say anything here. And the big idea that you need to understand that all these tools are similar. And what I'm going to show you is how to use this tool, how to apply some high-level project management concepts that you must know, that you must implement inside this tool, because these tools are super powerful. They are much more powerful than Jira or any similar tool, or Asana or something like that. These tools pack a lot of capabilities for project managers, and obviously you need to understand how to use them. And for those guys who are like in IT industry like I am, you might be thinking, okay, we're doing Scrum development using Scrum framework or Kanban. Why do we need these plan-driven, waterfallish tools? Well, I can tell you from my experience that half of my career, I was using this type of tools, and lots of projects uh, actually benefited from these kind of tools, not from agile projects, not from Jira, simply because there are some limitations. And we'll talk about those limitations of different frameworks and different approaches, and when you need to go with a tool like this one. All right. So, all right, let me see. Hello, Gleb. Hello, Kim. So, how long are you planning to run the live stream? I think it's an hour and a half, depending on how many questions you guys have, but definitely no more than 2 hours. So, uh, I'm a senior program manager, but I can always learn something new on MS Project. Great attitude. Glad to see you here, Kim. But today we are talking about Merlin project, and we are talking about a different tool. But I hope you'll see that the concepts, the ideas will still be the same. All right. Let's dive in. So right now we have something set up here. I hope you can see it well enough. It's not so important what's here as again as the concepts. And actually, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to delete all of this, and I'll start from scratch, so that you can like understand where we are, so and how you should operate with these tools. So this is like a blank project. You created it from scratch, and if you go around the user interface, you need to understand that basically this is one tool that has some inputs, and after that this tool displays this input in different ways, in different modalities, in different representations, but it works from the data that you input into it. That's why it's super critical that you understand the concepts behind the tool. And basically what we have here is that on the left-hand side, I hope you see my cursor, but it's here on left-hand side. This tool is like, why I like it is because it's very transparent. It tells you what it is. It's a work breakdown structure. Because lots of tools like Wrike or any more popular stuff like that, they say, okay, this is your to-do list. And people say, okay, let's go. And they just start creating a to-do list here and run projects like that. But this tool is more transparent. It says it's a work breakdown structure. What it means is that you must use the concepts of a work breakdown structure. And specifically what we're talking about. So a work breakdown structure is a tool in project management that allows you to break down the whole scope of work into tangible deliverables, into tangible pieces. And then you break down those tangible pieces into smaller pieces, and then you break down those smaller pieces into tasks. And when you do this, you are going from top to bottom, decomposing all the work, and then you do all the good stuff like estimating, scheduling from the bottom up. That's where the bottom up estimation approach comes from. So here's what we need to understand. We are working here with work breakdown structure. So at the top, the topmost item, the container for your project should be vision of the project outcome. And this is like in most cases, if we are talking about the IT industry, it's a product or service we try to create, or infrastructure we want to build, or if it's a data management project, then that's the final state of the data and a system that we need to build around it to continuously manage that data. So after that, we need to break down the projects into deliverables, and you will have your deliverables on the top level. And deliverable, for example, number one, we will specify them. Now, one thing that you see at once with this and any other tool, which I hate, I really hate it, because once you start creating your tasks or deliverables or whatever you put in here, you will at once see the Gantt chart. And this is the grave mistake that lots of project managers do. They start putting it tasks, deliverables here, and at once they start to drag this stuff around and try to create a schedule and see if it fits, if everything goes like at least it fits into the deadlines and stuff like that. And when what's actually happening here is that you will do this preliminary plan, and then something changes, you get more information about the project, and you start to redo your whole schedule at once, like from scratch, doing all the dependencies, identifying all the dependencies, identifying risks, additional tasks, and then it's a mess. So if I were a developer of this application or any other application, I would say like, you should not see this section, like Gantt chart section, until you click a specific button that will say, I have identified all major deliverables. Only after that, I would give you permission to look at the Gantt chart. So if ever you are using this tool, this kind of tools, maybe it's an MS project, management project, it doesn't matter. You should first focus your full attention on identifying deliverables, breaking them down into work packages. So it would be like that, work package number 1.1. And I'm kind of using this idea of WBS numbering here, but you can also use it outright, built-in capabilities of Merlin project. I'm just not making it too sophisticated. So next, I'll just create a bit more decomposition here for us to talk about. So that's how you should structure it. And remember, these are all tangible pieces of your project, which means they are like something that you can test, that you can hand off to your customers, clients, to like stakeholders in general. Okay, so this should be, and one of the rules, by the way, of a good work breakdown structure, everything that you have this on this list, except tasks until you get to the task level, it should be named with nouns and adjectives. So something that communicates the final state of this piece of work. And like you can imagine, it can be some pieces of infrastructure that you need to implement. It could be the product, the software product itself. It can be multiple components of the product, and so on. Another approach, by the way, you can use, it's totally acceptable by the VBS or WBS standards, is to have your life cycle phases on this level, on the top level. And then each phase will have its own deliverables and its own gates, if you want, decisions to proceed or not to proceed. Okay, so this is a super critical concepts. I will repeat it. Whenever you see this tool this way, when you have a list of tasks on the left hand side and a Gantt chart on the right hand side, like all the applications have it this way for some reason, you need to understand this is your work breakdown structure. Work breakdown structure. If you do not use the concepts of a work breakdown structure, then you are like putting your project at risk, because you will never know what you're working towards. You don't understand what tasks contribute to what success criteria of this project, what deliverables you create, and so on and so on. Lots of important concepts are hidden in a work breakdown structure. And by the way, I have a whole video on that. You can search my channel, and if you are not familiar with these best practices, it will give you some ideas. Now, this leads us to another critical concept when you are using this type of tools. And we definitely need to talk about rolling wave planning concept. So, what is a rolling wave planning concept? It means that you will identify all the details for the deliverables that you are going to work in the nearest future. And you will plan out all the other deliverables that are further down the road on a high level. But there is a critical idea that you must know. Even if you plan a project on a very high level, when you don't know all the details, you need to ensure that you plan it in such a way that it will fit all the work that is required to deliver, to create those deliverables, will fit into your estimates. So basically, if you are at the start of the project, and especially if it's an IT project, you should estimate and plan out the deliverables that are closer to the end with a lot of uncertainty, risks, and buffers, whatever you use in them, so that whatever the customer puts on you, whatever your stakeholders like demand in terms of requirements, you will be able to fit into that and deliver some product that they request. Definitely there will be a lot of negotiations, what goes into the project, what fits into that deadline, what doesn't fit, what risks were included or not included, and so on and so on. But in general, the idea is that if I am to plan this last deliverable, it will have lots of uncertainty in it at this stage, and therefore I should have a lot of reserves to account for all the uncertainties there. Okay. And what other thing you need to consider when applying the a rolling wave planning approach. And this is another mistake that I see that happens a lot. You see, like, this requires you to know the life cycle of a project. And a lot of times I see that project managers go online, search for IT project lifecycle, and they get this generic breakdown of a project into phases and typical ideas and tasks that are included in those phases, and they try to apply this to their own project. It will never work like that. So for such tools to work, you definitely need to know the life cycle of a project that you are managing inside your organization, inside your niche. There are not that many different life cycles of projects in one organization. When you do the projects for one organization, it's usually typical projects. They're similar in nature. So the product or service that you create might be different. It might be whatever you want, but because the organization has an environment, it has some experience, some processes, tools, and stuff, that requires you to use those approaches, and therefore the life cycle stays almost the same across multiple projects that you will ever lead. That's why if you want to use, and by the way, this is one of the criteria when these tools will be more successful than agile tools for development, is when you know the life cycle. And even if you don't know the requirements up front, you still can use the rolling wave planning technique, and you can define requirements on the go. The only challenge is to know those deliverables on a high level and to know approximately the whole life cycle of the project. And if you run a bigger project, also this type of project manager, if you, for example, already a program manager, these concepts work the same way. If you have multiple projects, if you have multiple teams, you can still use the work breakdown structure idea and still plan it out the same way. So now, when we go into the tool itself and start thinking out, so how should this work? We go through, for example, at the start of the project, and we identify deliverable number one. We know this is the first thing that we need to do because it's logically or technologically the first thing to do. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to use it. To implement the project this way. And we break it down into smaller pieces, and then under the work packages, we start creating tasks that we will assign to specific people to implement. And tasking is a good word, but not the right one. Okay, now often people ask me, okay, so what should I do if I don't have team? How do I hire team? How do I request the right resources for my project and all the stuff like that? So in this case, you need to understand, like, again, you first of all, you will be doing similar projects. So it will be IT projects with similar resources, similar expertise. But even like if we go into theoretical level, to identify what kind of a team you need to understand what tasks you are going to do. Is it, like, for example, back-end, front-end, business analysis, quality assurance tasks, and so on. And it all depends on what kind of a work package you are trying to implement. And when you have all these tasks identified here, and by the way, good practice, the best practice, I would say, is to always include subject matter experts or actual team members that you can acquire for this team to do the breakdown, and they will help you to do this step by step. And again, we are keeping to the rolling wave planning approach. We do this first of all, for the first few work packages, maybe for the first deliverable, to allow the team to get started to do the work on the tasks that we know of. For example, a lot of IT projects will require some kind of setup, initial setup. either for the team, their workplaces, their computers, tools, and stuff like that. That might be the first work package that you will plan out, assign, and start working like on day one. On day two, you will have a team meeting and identify the next work package that you can work on and continue working on it. And this way, you will have a short, like a first part of your project planned out like this. So, for example, this would be your first work packages, and then work package number 3 is already undefined. So, but we kind of estimated that, okay, this work analyze the data that we have. It will be 2 weeks long, and and we'll leave it like this on let's say 2 weeks to implement, and then we do high-level planning after that. So we say, okay, we know little about deliverable 2. Maybe we have identified the work packages, but we will estimate that we can do this based on the high-level requirements that we have. It will be 4 weeks long, like for this team to implement, or for expected team, for example. And by the way, we can start sequencing. We can start sequencing these ideas to ensure that if we change something in the plan, then all the changes will apply themselves. All right. So this will be, okay, I said 4 weeks, for example. We extend it to 4 weeks and we leave it like that. The deliverables 3 and 4, like they will be at the same level like of details. Right now we know nothing about them. Probably we should also connect them into a sequence, and we'll talk about sequencing a bit later. We just know that these deliverables, okay, let's complicate this a bit. We can say that deliverable number 3 can be done in parallel, maybe with some head start from deliverable 2, and it will take 2 weeks. And then deliverable 4, maybe it can be done only after that, because these 2 need to be dependent, and it will take, I don't know, let's say the team estimated into a month of work. So if I zoom out a bit, this is your high-level plan in this tool. So what's going to happen on day-to-day basis? The team will be working on deliverable number 1 on the tasks that they identified. And then every day, as much as it's practical, as much as you can collect requirements for the next work packages, you will dedicate time to continue planning. That's where the rolling wave planning comes in. You'll have waves of planning efforts. And now you start identifying what tasks are required for work package number 3 in deliverable number 1. You will continue, maybe your business analyst in the process will continue analyzing the requirements, collecting the requirements for deliverable number 2 in general, and you will also continue breaking it down and trying to improve your understanding of these deliverables specifically, and maybe you will break it down into more work packages and so on. And in most cases, you will not touch deliverables 3 and 4, at least not from, I would say, not from development perspective. Business analysts maybe continue collecting on all these deliverables, the requirements on all these deliverables, but the project team will focus mostly on breaking down the next deliverable and estimating it. So again, work package, maybe we will estimate it with tasks, and let me see if I can, I can do this like estimation right here, and say this 1 day, maybe this is 2 days, this is 3 days, depending on, maybe these tasks are dependent, and we can build it up. Now we know the schedule, the budget, the estimation for work package number 2. Once the team finishes deliverable number 1, we will switch to the next work package that is available for us to implement. So now you see right away, we just open the tool, and right away we need to know so many important project management concepts. We talked about work breakdown structure. We talked about the ideas or the concepts of how to create a quality work breakdown structure with deliverables which are named properly, which are decomposed properly. We talked about already rolling wave planning. Otherwise, you can assume that you can only use this tool if you do the whole project management plan at the start of the project, which is never a good idea. So you see, like, if anything that I'm talking about right now is not familiar to you, and like you do want to start using these tools, you want to deliver your projects or programs uh, for the project success, then basically you need to upskill your knowledge or improve your project management skills. And for that, guys, you can scan this barcode or go to that link, itpmschool.com get plan. And this plan will list out all the competencies of a great project manager that you need. And this will include scope management ideas like work breakdown structure, integration ideas like project planning with a rolling wave planning technique, or how it all ties together in general. Because right now I just show you the basic ideas on how to start working with it. And we're going to dive much deeper into capabilities that you can include in that tool. So before that, I'll just quickly run through the questions, and you can scan the barcode and get the plan. So Larry asks, which tool are you using for this? In this case, I'm using Merlin Project, but this tool is only for Mac OS. I'm just using this specific tool for this demonstration, but the principles and concepts apply to any project management tool you will use, whether it's MS Project, Rike, or anything like that. It will be the same. Okay, I'm a business management student. Yeah, I just started learning project management. I took Google project management course in Coursera. Which way is better for me to start a career? Well, that's I will leave this question for later. We are focusing on how to deliver real projects in the IT industry for today. All right, let's get back. So now. Uh, Now I want to talk about another mistake that a lot of project managers make when they start scheduling or estimating. And we will start by talking about estimation, first of all. Yep. So at some point, you will create these work packages and deliverables. Definitely, you need to work with your team, with subject matter experts, with stakeholders to understand this, what deliverables you need, how you want to deliver them, and so on. The next thing is that when you take each and every work package, you will start to break them down into tasks. How do you do that? Basically, you go on a meeting with a team and you ask them about what it takes to create this deliverable, and you provide all the requirements. You discuss what it should look like, what it should be capable of, and based on their experience and on their expertise, they will come up with this task. So again, a good project manager always uses the team's expertise to do the breakdown and to do the estimation. And now I would say, like, another critical point here is that we all always try to estimate things or activities in days. But I think the most important thing, and especially it's important when you are using such a tool, you need to understand what you are estimating. Because you can estimate this task, this activity in multiple ways. You can estimate it in effort. how much effort it will take. So if, for example, 10 days or 10 person days of effort, it means that one person can work on this task for 10 days and most probably they will finish it. At the same time, it may mean that you can assign two people to this task and they will do this task maybe in 5 days, maybe in 6 days, calendar days, I mean, or working days, which more important. Now, you can also estimate these tasks in duration. So if you already know how many people you will put on this task, you can say, okay, it will be 3 working days of work. So one person will do the work for 3 days, and so on and so on. So you can do it from duration standpoint and then assigning people, or you can do it from effort standpoint. So for IT projects, in most cases, I would go for effort-based estimation, and I will try to estimate how much effort it will take to implement the task. At the same time, if I get a lot of tasks that, for example, this task will say the team doesn't know how much they will say like maybe it's 2 weeks, 14, like 10 days. Okay. And this is a good indicator that you cannot leave this task this big and it needs further breakdown. And the idea here is that ideally you should break down tasks to such a level where one person can finish it end to end on their own without interrupting or without a need of other people. And here it's like, again, a bit of a problem, because if we're talking about IT industry, then what about peer reviews, all the quality standards, software development processes and stuff like that? In this case, you need to like incorporate all this work into these estimates. And again, you need to understand what you estimate. So you can estimate the effort in effective hours or like ideal hours. That's ideal hours is like every day it's 9 hours of work, 40 hours per week, and this task can be done in 8 hours, so it means in a day. But you know, like from Scrum and Agile frameworks, that people don't dedicate 100% of their working hours to a specific task. They have meetings, they have a lot of stuff. So a lot of considerations go into this estimation of just one task. And again, if you are like doing this project from scratch, you don't have any kind of team already pre-assigned to you, you'll also need to estimate it in terms of resources that you need. So what kind of skill sets in general you need to finish each and every task. Okay. And maybe you also need some level of expertise in this case as well. So we will do it the hard way. Let's assume this is a unique IT project and like we know nothing about it. We need to build the team. We need to identify whom we need to do these tasks and so on. And this leads us to a critical idea that before you start again dragging this schedule, this Gantt chart bars, and try to do the fine-tuning of the activities of work. So after you did this initial like burst of planning for first few tasks, you need to put the good project manager's hat on and do it in correct way, do it the right way. So what does it mean? So you understand that what are the requirements for each work package here. So for example, it's I don't know, let's assume it's some web service that will take data from one database, do some calculations and put it into another database. And for that, for example, we need web service here created in, I don't know, Amazon Web Services infrastructure. We need a database and we need its structure. We need connection between this stuff and so on and so on. And now, like, you go into this work package by work package, identify the tasks and look at the tasks. For example, we need to write a query to find the right data from database A. So this is like backend work. So we definitely need some backend developer for this. And you will start identifying what kind of resources, people, and expertise that you need. And for example, we also need some dashboard to monitor how the data goes. We will have some front end development like work. Maybe we'll have tasks and we need to do some quality assurance task, QA tester or QA engineer. And you go task by task and identify what kind of person it is to do this work. And again, keep in mind that we for IT projects, that's what I recommend for you to do. We broke down tasks in such a way that each task should be done by one person end to end. So if I'm talking about like backend developer to do this activity, I assume that one person will do all the work in these tasks, that this front end developer will do this all work by themselves. And soon I will notice that, okay, I have 3 roles here. Maybe they will be similar here. I don't know, like backend developer here, front-end developer here, QA engineer here. And this tells me that, okay, I need this type of people, these roles on my project already. But that's not enough. Like, definitely you can hire just one developer for each role, and that's and do this way, like just one by one. But in more complex projects, when you have multiple deliverables that you implement it the same way, you will probably sit on this situation where you have work package 1 and it's independent from work package 2 or any other 2. So these 2 work packages can be done in parallel, and we shouldn't be stopped. Where did I decompose the tasks? I don't remember. Yeah. Okay. So, okay. Yeah, this I assigned the whole work package. That's not correct. So I should have this activity number 1. And let's just duplicate some of them and say this activity number 2, this activity number 3. And in this case, we will have for this task backend developer, front-end developer, and quality assurance engineer. So we will notice that, we may notice that we can do it much more efficient. And that's why there is one critical concept that you need to understand. Even if tasks don't have like mandatory or technical dependency, there is no sequence in them, you should assign them just to know which tasks go after which. You create a structure yourself, which is convenient to you. The only problem is that you cannot really tell whether you assign this activity on your discretion or if it's a like technical limitation. But generally, you can remember such stuff as which is the like which are mandatory dependencies, and usually they are between bigger pieces of work, not the task level. So okay, now let's say we have also estimates for this part, and maybe it's like 5 days here, then dashboard, I don't know, 15 days for front-end developer, and maybe 4 days for QA engineer. What we're seeing here is that, okay, we can do it like that. We can say that QA, like we will do it one by one. In this case, yes, you will say, okay, this task and these tasks are dependent, and you will sequence them one after another. This way, you kind of don't have constraints on resources. But at the same time, you may have a situation where you can say, okay, I want to start this work after like this is finished. This is when you assign dependencies to structure your project. And there are many types of sequence of dependencies between tasks in theory. In practice, I would say you will, like 99.9% of time, will use start to finish or finish to start dependency. So task number 2 can be started only when task number 1 is finished. And this type of dependencies will structure your work on a project. Again, how do you identify those dependencies? Either it's a technical limitation and like constraint, and you have to do it this way. There is no other way around it. You cannot build dashboard without data, for example. So that's why you need to do this way. Or if there is no dependencies and you have a lot of tasks that you can do at the same time, you will make this sequencing these dependencies on your discretion just to structure the project and take to make it more manageable. All right. So this is how you identify resources. Then you can fine tune this stuff and you will say, okay, I will maybe need for this task, I actually need not just backend developer, I need senior backend developer. And for the rest of the tasks, maybe I'll do with mid-level developers or even junior developers. And maybe for QA engineer, I will also need a QA lead engineer to do the test strategy, to do the test cases, all the like prep work plus organization work for the team. And one by one, you'll get through the whole list and you'll identify the typical roles and responsibilities or the skill sets that you need to implement those tasks. Then, like again, this tool is super powerful. So once you do that, you can go and start like resource entry, I would say. This is basically your way to identify the resources on your team and start doing the estimation, at least of the work. And for example, we say, okay, and there are a lot of considerations like, okay, we want to hire a backend developer and his or her standard rate would be no more than $25 per hour. Front-end developer, like on the market, we can get only for I would say not only, but for $17. QA engineer, $10 per hour. Senior backend developer will cost us more. So we start to plan out our budgets based on the standard rates on the market, based on the rates that we can get inside our organization and stuff like that. We can fill it all out, and this will help you a lot with future estimation, future breakdown, because you will out of the gate, out of the box, you will get all this automatically calculated, but by such a tool. Again, you can include a lot of data for each and every engineer here, for each and every person. And one important thing to do here is to identify their regular working hours, regular week schedule. And then you should go into exceptions and set the exception. For example, you will use calendars for holidays, and you will basically assign this whole calendar to each and every developer. This is so powerful that you can actually, for example, your backend developer lives in the US. They have their own holidays. So you can add this whole list of exceptions where the person will not work. And then you have front-end developer who lives in Poland, for example, and they have different types of or different holidays. Again, you can assign them here. And when you work then like implement the project, you can add their vacations, sick leaves, and stuff like that. And it will automatically recalculate your whole schedule. So one critical thing I think that lots of people miss when they start using this kind of tools, they jump into this work breakdown structure, into schedule, drag and drop, all these Gantt chart elements. But what's really critical is that you go out and actually start planning, start setting up your project, because I can guarantee that every tool has a lot of setups like this. So how you, when you start a project, how you calculate the schedule, by the way, forward and backward, good ideas. I will not dive too deep today. It's a very advanced topic. Start of the week, start of the year, how many working hours per day do you want to account in your schedule? Hours per week, days per month, everything like that. So default values, start and end dates, how to calculate them, what's currency, and so on. Then you go and set up standard calendars for the whole project if you want to, if you have this team which like shares all the working hours and vacations. You can add more stuff here for VBS codes, by the way. If you don't want to like type them in manual, you can set them up here and customize your project. You can customize the way like the application treats over utilization, underutilization of resources. So a lot of setups, and I recommend that you go through all the buttons that you can see on your application and just try to see what you can set up for the whole project first. And the biggest mistake that I notice while working with project managers is that they forget to include the holidays calendars, and they map out the whole project, do all this work, and then they like, okay, but there are holidays, there are some days of official or national holidays, and they mess up the whole schedule. Nothing like because of that, nothing works. Everything stretches out after you include them, and it creates a lot of mess. Another critical error that I see when like you're jumping through the steps is that you start assigning sequence like order, creating these dependencies way too early when you still don't understand the whole structure of the project, or you don't assign these types of dependencies at all. And again, I'll repeat this: if you don't have mandatory dependencies between tasks, you still want to include them, because once you have this whole schedule set up like this, when you have all the dependencies between tasks, the schedule will automatically recalculate itself if you need to drag something on it. Now, imagine that for some reasons you need to start this work earlier and you don't have, like later, and you don't have all these dependencies. Then you will have to drag all these pieces individually, or select them and drag them all at once. But basically, if you have these dependencies, any change to the schedule will automatically propagate and will automatically adjust based on where the tasks land. You see, like it lands on weekends. Now it's taking more duration, but the idea, we still get the schedule with all the correctly mapped out tasks or dependencies. So don't jump the steps. Always follow the correct way to create the schedule here. And it starts with assigning, identifying tasks, assigning specific people to those tasks based on their personal working calendar, with their vacations, if you know about them, with national holidays and stuff like that. Assign all the dependencies, only then start moving things around. And that will save you a lot of time. All right, guys, I will pause here, and while I will I will take a sip of water. I will give you a moment to ask your questions. So far, we covered a lot of concepts: work breakdown structure, rolling wave planning, how to create a schedule, how to identify resources in the tool, how to fill out the required data for these resources so that you can incorporate and auto calculate all these data for your project. And while I'll wait for your questions, feel free to scan this barcode, go to this link and get my professional development plan, because it will give you access to a lot of resources that will help you implement such a project management plan when you need it. All right. Okay. I have this kind. Gleb asks, why does it feel so overwhelming to implement at first place, even though you clear all the clouds? Well, the main challenge with any projects, whether it's a IT project or any other industry, and whether you use these tools or any other tools, there are hundreds upon hundreds of moving pieces and things that you don't know, things that you need to assume, things you need to plan out without having all the answers. That's why it's so difficult. And that's why it's so critical to have this big picture or full understanding of project management end to end. So you have this practical framework that you know. And the test that I always suggest to my members of my programs is that you need to imagine that if I put you on a project, like you know nothing about the company, you know nothing about the project, last project manager was fired, you are put onto this project, what should you do? And the idea is that you need to recollect your ideal project management framework, which you are familiar with. You learned it from either courses or books or from your experience. And you need to identify where you are right now. Then you need to look around and see what project management artifacts you are missing, what's the next step that you need to implement, and where you are in the overall project lifecycle and overall project management framework that you will try to use on this project. So it's difficult, it's overwhelming, because you try to think about the whole project, all the possible ins and outs at the same time. And I suggest that you start thinking about breaking down any project into smaller pieces and working through smaller workflows or smaller pieces of project management approach that you know at the same time. The only challenge here, and I totally get it, that sometimes it feels like you need to make some decisions today, which will impact the whole project 6, 8, 10, 20 months from now. And for that, you definitely need some in-depth understanding of project management, how it works, what are the consequences of having or not having some tools and processes. That's why new project managers should start from small projects where the impact of a decision will be clearly seen at the same moment or within a few days or weeks. You don't need to wait for a long feedback on that. All right, I will continue with my presentation. We discussed so far work breakdown structure, we discussed scheduling, we discussed how to assign resources and so on. But these tools have much more power in them, because once you start filling out the information, once you start working or adding details to your plan, you have different ways to look at it. And again, as I said, these tools, they are simply, let me see if I can make this bigger a bit for you. They're simply representing a lot of the same information in different ways. So now we have our breakdown structure, and we get into the budgeting section of this tool. This is super powerful, and I can say with certainty that 90 or 80% or 90% of IT projects will never go into this depth. So it might be important for some bigger construction projects to do it this way, but just for your general overall understanding what it takes to budget a project. And again, as I said, everything goes from bottom up if you want to have an accurate project plan and estimates. And right now you see already some numbers are piling up here. And where do these numbers come from? They come from the idea that we assigned a certain person, a certain resource at this point. At this point, we are talking about resources or roles. We don't have specific people here. And we assign certain amount or certain cost per hour for this person, and we assign this resource to a task which will take 5 days. So if we multiply 5 working days by their hourly rate, we'll get this 1600 USD. And for the second task and third task, we assign different people, different resources, and we got these preliminary estimates. But again, this tool is much more sophisticated. Right now, we estimated only the work-related costs, but we can go further and do a lot of budgeting stuff. And for now, we'll skip the budget. We'll assume we estimate the cost, and we'll say, okay, there is also some base costs, so not just the work or effort of developers. Maybe to do this work, we'll need to set up some infrastructure, and the setup fee will be 500 USD. And we added this new cost. We will say I'm just like giving out these names quickly. You want to have them very descriptive, but basically I've just planned out an additional expense for this activity in addition to the work required to implement this or finish this activity. We can assign such costs, like additional costs. Most probably it would be a better approach on a work package level, because all the activities will kind of will use this infrastructure. So maybe you will consider it adding here and not on a task level. It all depends on how you structure the project. You just like need to make a good educated decision. And once you do this, you can set up a lot of stuff here, and like it allows you to do a lot of process-based activities. For example, I set this infrastructure cost as requested because I haven't yet got any budget. I haven't requested it. So, for example, senior developer asked for it. Now, if we go, we can say, okay, based on our costs, based on our estimated costs, we will ask for a certain budget. You can do it in different ways, definitely on any level here, on a project level, on each deliverable level. It all depends on the way you want to control it. But for example, we will say, okay, it's costing us like $972. I will request, maybe with some buffer, $1,000. And who requested it? Let's say senior business analyst, senior backend developer. And then when we requested this amount, we can also specify what amount was approved. And maybe the sponsor said, okay, I'm not paying some extra. It's a straightforward task. We will pay you 990 USD. And then you get the status approved, and you have your approved budget for this work package, the whole work package. Again, you should be mindful about where you request or put these numbers, because in this case, we want to get, I've put it on deliverable level. That's not correct. Oh no, I put it on a work package for just like this work package. We'll maybe then need to sum up the budget for the whole deliverable as well. But as you can see, like if we can track all the steps inside our estimation process. Like we estimated this based on the work required, based on additional costs, based on everything else, and then we requested certain amount of money, and we got approval on a different amount of money. So what are we going to do next? Well, we look at our project plan. Is it still feasible? Should we make a change, request more money, and so on? And then you can approve, like assign this budget to specific tasks, and you can track all this spending on whatever level you want, just by including this into these costs. For example, if this task will say, okay, it was estimated, what are the actual values? We planned it out like that. Let's say, I'm just showing you that we finished the task, and we can see the balance sheet now. So what was the budget? What was the planned costs? What are the actual costs? Work costs already accrued, $200, balance minus. That's because, again, it's so much such a powerful tool that you will want to assign the budget for each and every task to ensure the accurate control of the costs, and see whether this approved budget that you got, that you distributed this like budget to these tasks, and then you accounted them for. And then each and every cost you will track here. Okay. So this is just to illustrate you that such project management tools have lots of power. And if you need to control these costs on such a level where you provide estimates, you get approval, you distribute the budget across tasks and activities, you can do that. And then you can control these costs based on each and every task. And then you can still collect the invoices, input them here, and show that everything was done as we planned. And if something goes wrong, then you will need to do the changes. Now, this is just to illustrate you one interesting concept. So you see, like we planned out the project, and this also happens like this sometimes. And we said that this backend developer will get them for $25 per hour. Let's assume that we hired a real person, and will be John Snow. He is a backend developer. We can do it like this, and basically say, okay, his actual rate after we planned out everything ended up as $19. We got cheaper person to do the same work. And again, if you do this properly, everything should recalculate itself, and you should soon see that, all these numbers based on the work that you assigned will change their numbers, and expected costs and budget versus approved budget will recalculate itself. Okay, what else, guys? What else do we have here? Now, this tool is hardcore plan-driven PMI style tool where you can have your flowcharts and do this whole analysis. You can do mind maps in here if you want to have a work breakdown structure in a different representation. You can use it for multiple other ways, like organizational chart, phases, statuses, and stuff like that. There is part analysis capabilities built in. So just by looking at this amount of capabilities, you need to understand that the tool will do whatever you ask it to do. And the idea is that you must know how to implement this tool, how to use this tool from project management perspective. Again, you can even include Kanban and Agile ideas here, and that's, by the way, the preferred approach. Once you do all the planning out, you do the priorities correctly and sequences correctly, then you can track on daily basis the tasks just by using the Kanban board and doing it the Agile way. After that, if you do this correct way, you will also see reports by person, how much planned work you have for this person, how much actual work has happened, overtime, actual work, and so on. You can have also cost breakdown, how much each person spent. You then can also have the work distribution, another powerful tool. Once you do the planning, and you can imagine that you have this huge Gantt chart with lots of dependencies, lots of tasks going on in the parallel, and sometimes you will overload a person on a specific day, and you will need to resolve these conflicts with a tool. By the way, there is a built-in capability to do this automatically. Again, if you do this resource leveling correctly, you can do it with these tool capabilities, not manually. But again, this is something that a lot of project managers miss because they don't know the actual workload for each person. They don't track how many tasks they assign to them on each and every given moment. And this tool gives you these capabilities. Again, there are some reports that you can use. A very simple report to say what we're going to do, what we're doing, what are the milestones, everything that you can imagine here. By the way, another thing that I think I missed to explain is that, all right, we are talking about proper project management, and we have tasks, we have breakdown. Where is the risk management? And this tool handles it in a very interesting way. So basically, at any level, you can add an attachment and say that, okay, it's a risk. And now it creates a new risk. So for example, hiring costs might be higher. And we can go into all the details and set up, unfortunately, we'll have to use the built-in risk management framework, but basically it allows you to assign some grouping for the risk, some class that's whether you're going to accept the risk, whether you're creating an emergency plan. You can set up the probability of this risk. You can say that who reported this risk, who is in charge, who is the owner of the risk. You can write a description. You can do the risk, qualitative risk, qualitative risk analysis here, like to say, okay, it's in terms of scope, it will be important areas affected, costs will get higher by 2%, and delays like 2%. So it's a high risk, and it's kind of calculating it for you. You can log the actions, and then you will report on the risk if it did occur, when it occurred, costs and lessons learned. Definitely in this case it will be like high level risks that you want to track. You don't go into super low details, but you have all the capabilities, and again you can assign costs for these risks, and you can do a lot of like information capturing for each risk. The idea here is that in addition to the tasks, if you kind of created a risk, you can transform it into tasks, and it will just end up as new tasks under a specific work package. Or you will say, okay, this work package might be impacted by the risk and it will require additional costs. That's why we allocate here $400, and if it happens, we'll use that $400. And again, it will all come into the budgeting spreadsheet. You will see all these effects here. That's why if you do it correctly, you will have a bird's eye view of all these expenses. Okay, good. So, and in addition to that, you can attach a lot of stuff. Like if, for example, you have some files as requirements, you can attach them to work packages. You can attach links, checklists, events, and so on and so on. So again, a lot of creativity. You can apply a lot of creativity and basically implement any kind of project management approach inside this tool. Okay. All right. I think I will switch to a Q&A session right now. If you have questions related to lifecycle project management tools, I will be glad to answer them first. And after that, I can switch to other questions. All right. And we'll try to keep it under 20 minutes. All right, I will just go here. Okay, off topic. All right, off topic question, but I really want to know what are your learning customs, how you organize the work so you can learn new things swiftly. I want to know what are your learning customs. Okay. As I understand it, what are my routines or habits to ensure that I learn new stuff and I learn and keep my skills up to date? So I teach an approach. First of all, there is a whole productivity system that I apply. And just by using the proper tools to capture and plan out my work, I most probably can find more time than an average person can in their day to learn stuff, to do much more tasks relevant for my work. But number one, a productivity tool which allows you to prioritize your work on a project in your life. So everything should be in one tool. And this will allow you to set the priority for your learning, your learning goals. Because the way it happens for most people is that they have work, they have family commitments, and they go to the top priority. You always will prioritize a meeting with your team members or your team, and will always put off this learning on a later date if you don't have a priority system. After that, I will go into this tool, or in your case, for example, the easiest way is to use calendar, and you will start blocking out about 10 to 20% of your working hours and dedicate them to learning. So the idea is that you have your calendar full of, again, I'm talking from perspective of a project manager, but you can have the same structure of work, but you have your working day, you have all the meetings, you have people who ask you questions, who come to you to your desk, who call you, who text you. And again, every email, every meeting, every task is a priority of another person. And you want to prioritize your learning. That's why you will block time for yourself to do the study. You will learn something during that time, and you will treat it as a meeting with a very important person. For example, as a meeting with your boss. And just by setting up this time for yourself as a meeting with yourself, with a clear goal, what you are going to do during those 30, 20 minutes. For example, you will watch one YouTube video, you will read few pages of the project management book, whatever your goal is right now, but you will block that time and you will ensure that no one take the time from you. If you implement just these two pieces, like prioritization of tasks, what is more important, and blocking your time for specific activity, you will see so much more progress. So in my days, I literally dedicated 20% of my working hours to education. And I was either learning something or trying to implement it on my project, researching the ways I can do it. Oh, my cat is trying to get out. While you write your other questions, let me just say hello to my audience. Okay, he will answer your questions, all the rest of your questions. Yeah. All right. So I would say, guys, if you feel like you are overwhelmed with all the new technology that's going on right now, with AI, with all the tools, if, for example, you learned about this Marilyn project tool and you want to test it out, by the way, you can take the demo. I don't know, it's like either 30 days or something. You can check it out, play with it. You need to start dedicating your time to education yourself. And if your environment, if you feel like it's not appreciated, that your boss will punish you if he sees you that you are like watching a YouTube channel, if you're reading a book at the workplace, that's a bad environment to work in. I would say you need to change the environment at the earliest possible way, to get into environment that appreciates your dedication to professional development. If they don't, then that's a bad place to be in. All right. Yeah. That's one of my cats. I have another one, but the second one is not here. And I didn't notice that he was sleeping with us. He was listening. He was also learning the new project management tools. All right, guys, feel free to ask any questions. I know this topic today was quite advanced. Not many. Oh, by the way, maybe I will add. I forgot maybe the main idea that I wanted to bring up here: when to use such a tool. The criteria for using such a tool on an agile or IT project in general, in comparison to defaulting to Scrum, is when you know the life cycle of your project, or if it's like repeating a series of smaller projects to deliver new capabilities to to a product, and your requirements, your product owners or your product manager, customers, they are not so like very familiar with Scrum. That's one indicator. Second, if you use Scrum but you do not deliver your product increment, your like sprint results to the market, to the final like end users every single like iteration, then you already include a lot of complications into your project. And in this way, you can win a lot of efficiency by going plan-driven way. If you also have a lot of plans ahead, like your customers want these roadmaps, but these roadmaps are not just when the whole epic will be finished. It's like this is a release, it includes a lot of functionality, it's like dozens upon dozens of user stories per release. In this case, it's also might be a good idea to go into plan-driven way of running a project, because if they have lots of requirements upfront, they already know what they're going to do, there is a good chance that you can capture those requirements in advance and plan out the work for the scope of work for those requirements in advance, and it will allow you to level resources better, and it will allow you to prepare for those features better. So basically, life cycle, planning out if customers or stakeholders have long-term plans and ideas, and they can articulate the requirements. And third is when you don't deliver your increment each iteration. If you stack up the features, then do the testing, then do the deployment, then some time off between releases, and then plan-driven is much more efficient. And I might kind of repeat myself, but again, rolling wave planning is not that different from doing it in a Scrum way. You just do a high-level planning on things that you don't know, and you work on planning out the work packages and tasks for the next 2 weeks, 4 weeks, if you can, and you just put more like you continuously put planning efforts into your project. That's the right way to describe it, because you do the same thing in Scrum. All right. Okay, Vladimir, hello from Jamaica. Thanks for the session. You are welcome. Sorry, I misspelled you. Vladimir Wallace. Sorry, I have problems with names, so my apologies. But you are welcome. Thanks for joining. All right, guys. Any other questions? If you have, feel free to ask. One last time, I will remind you that a lot of concepts that you need to know if you want to be a great project manager, if you want to deliver your project successfully, you need to develop the right skills. And I believe that there is not such a huge list of skills that you need to develop. It's relatively small. And at the same time, learning more and more theory, getting more and more certifications don't make you a great project manager. Instead, you need to learn this set in this professional development plan, the set of skills that I recommend, but you need to know the theory, and you need to know how to implement it in different environments. You need to know how to adapt each and every line from this professional development plan on any project that you get. So you can scan the barcode with your phone. You can go to this link, itpmschool.com/getplan, and it's free. And it comes with lots of templates that I recommend using. For example, scope management plan template, or risk management plan template, or risk register, project charts, and stuff like that. And also I give you some links to important videos and resources that I think will help you deliver your projects uh, without stress and with more confidence. All right. Okay. How do specifications, requirements, and user stories differentiate from one another, and how the document code that developers use to understand what they need to implement? All right. Uh, Specifications, requirements, documentation, and user stories are different types or different formats of requirements. So specification is a generic term that you can apply to any possible industry. It's a document that describes all possible capabilities, limitations, traits of a product, system, or whatever. So you can write a specification on anything. For example, you can write a specification on these glasses, or you can write a specification for a future model of the glasses, which will say, okay, it will have not black things like this one, but yellow things. It will have the glasses, these lenses that will be with certain capabilities, and they will list out specifically numbers. So specifications are more used in construction, engineering, and stuff like that, where you need to know very exact details about components or building blocks that you use. For example, if you use specific microchip in your hardware, you will give a specification to that microchip so you can purchase it somewhere. Or if you use a building block, I don't know, like a section for the window that you can install the panel, it will have certain specification based on the, I don't know, resistance, based on the weight it can take, the size, materials, how like energy efficient it is. I don't know. You can name it. Now, requirements documentation is also a generic term that you can use in any industry, and it's also just a document. It's a generic document that describes requirements in any possible way. Like if I just start writing a document which will describe, again, maybe this remote controller, I can use my like narrative language. I will say it will have this remote controller will be of rectangular form. It should be uh, 20 centimeters long, 5 centimeters in width, and it will have some oval form in it. It will be white. It will have several sets of buttons. First set of buttons is this black circle with plus, minus, forward, backward, and pause play. I've just actually, if I would write it down, it will be a specification or it will be a requirements document. So any form of such requirements for IT project, for any project will work. This is just a generic term. Now, user story is also a type of requirements documentation, with only difference is that they are standardized. A user story must follow certain rules on how you write them. First of all, it has a title format where you use this, maybe one of the most typical one. As a user, I want to be able to do this so that I can achieve this. And then you will have some description, you will have some acceptance criteria in that user story in a certain way. And a user story should describe just one piece of functionality and shouldn't be too big. So it's just a standardized way to describe the requirements. And definitely, if you take any specification or requirements document, you can transform them into a set of user stories that will do the same. Right? So in most cases, like you will use in IT industry, the combination of it, you will use user stories for describing what needs to be done in the requirements, and You will use some kind of requirements document to capture high-level requirements from stakeholders, from conceptual perspective, from design perspective. You can also use that. So, for example, architecture, you will use a requirements document. You just call it architecture design document or something like that. And you will just describe your product on a very high level, components, what they do, how they connect. Then you will go and say, okay, for each component, we'll have a set of user stories. And you'll describe the requirements to those components. All right. I hope that answers your question, and that brings us to the end because we're on time right now. So thank you so much for staying with me during this session. I hope you learned something new about project management, about uh, project management tools that you can use even on IT projects, and how much powerful they are. So this time I used Merlin project. If you want to test it out, it's available on Mac. You can do a demo and play around with it. I'm not, by the way, affiliate with them, just a tool that I like and use because it's so much powerful and it allows you to do proper, like, buy the book, buy PMI project management if you want. But at the same time, it's a powerful tool that you can use on a much smaller, much simpler projects where Scrum might be just artificially imposed on you, and using a plan-driven approach with rolling wave planning is much more beneficial.